Welcome to B-Sides Orlando at Full Sail University. Woo, let's get the woos, come on. Excellent. We'll call for a second round of woos in a moment. Our next speaker is the founder and CEO of ThreatCare. He describes himself as a hacker who helps people not suck at cybersecurity. He started his technology voyage in the US Navy cryptology and later went on to refine his knowledge while working at the National Security Agency. Ladies and gentlemen, Marcus Carey.
Wow, thanks for coming, everybody. This is gonna be, hopefully I'm gonna have fun. I'm gonna touch some buttons. It's gonna be awkward for all of us, but just bear with me, and I think you're gonna enjoy this presentation. All right, so how many of y'all know where this quote comes from, my title? All right, cool, a lot of people know what the deal is. So it comes from this album, Damn. And so I bet you when a lot of people saw that title, they're like, damn, I can't believe he's doing this. So I'm gonna tell you a little bit about myself, how I got to where I am. I always try to introduce myself. So I'm from a small town, they call it a one-horse town in Texas. I live in Austin currently, but this is where I'm from. There was definitely not, it wasn't uncommon to see horses and stuff in your yard, chicken coops, all that stuff. So I'm as country as all get up. I tell people usually when I come to a room, they play John Denver, Thank God I'm a Country Boy. So when I was growing up, my father wasn't there. So I never knew my dad growing up. So I kind of wanted to know who my dad was. My dad, he lived in the Virgin Islands. This is the man my mom said was my dad, and I really didn't know. So I grew up without him, and so for all I knew, I didn't know any siblings related to him or anything like that. So I wanted to search and to see who was my father. So for a little bit, the US Navy was my father. The Navy kind of raised me, kind of made me a man, taught me responsibility and all kind of cool stuff. I actually went to boot camp here in Orlando back in the day. And they called it Disney World. How many people, we have any Navy people in the house? Several? But it wasn't Disney World, it was more like this. That brings back so many memories. Not that Disney World, for sure. But I love Orlando. I have a sister who lives here in the area. Hopefully I'll be seeing her tonight and hanging out with her family. So once I joined the military, the whole time I was in the military, I did pretty cool stuff. I worked for National Security Agency, Central Security Service, and Cyber Command is something new, but I did Cyber Command stuff as well, even before there was a name. I tell everybody I was doing cyber before it was cool. I'm like a cyber hipster. First duty station was Edzell, Scotland. They say when you go to Edzell, Scotland, this is what they told me, you either come back drunk or married or both. So I came back married, definitely got drunk a couple of times, 18-year-old, being over there able to drink. So this is my family. I'm in the middle with a huge beard somewhere in the middle. And to the left of me, if you can find me like right near the middle, that's me, my daughter, and my wife. My wife, I met her in Scotland, so I came back married. And on the left, on this side of the picture, yeah, right in the left in the corner is my sister, who was kind of funny because I really didn't know she was my sister. She's my father. I'm using father in parentheses, quotes. Definitely related to him because she looked just like him, but I looked nothing like my father. So I went to do a lot of testing. How many people have ever done 23andMe? Can we get a hand up? How many people have heard of Ancestry.com? Hands up. GEDmatch, who's heard of that? One person? I figured you know it, Jackie. Jackie's probably already done everything I'm finna say. And MyHeritage is another one. So what's cool, so I actually got 23andMe. I'm gonna talk a little bit about these things. So 23andMe, I actually did my DNA test through, excuse me, 23andMe. So on Ancestry.com is a really good place. And I recommend everybody check this out because it's crazy. What I love about Ancestry.com is you can find out all kind of information about anybody. A while ago, what I did is I actually did research on my whole family tree all the way back to the 1800s. And this is like slavery times, right? Because so I traced it back all the way to like 1830. And that's the farthest back I could take it personally. But some people know their DNA or know their heritage all the way back to whatever land you went to. So that's a struggle, like being black. You don't know because once it gets past 1800s, slavery happened and there was not a lot of good records keeping. Some people say they can trace the boat that their ancestor came on, and that may be true in some cases. But I really wanted to know my family history, so I went all in at Ancestry.com. But what's crazy about Ancestry.com is all the public records that are available would be like a social engineering dream for anybody in here. You can find out everybody, like, I can pick any random person in here, and I can know everything about you, like, seriously, on Ancestry.com. So everybody, you should go check that out. Since I actually worked at NSA, I don't believe there's any secrets anyway, but Ancestry.com would definitely make you a believer. I can find out anything about anybody in this room right now through that website. 23andMe is pretty dope. It's probably the most flashy marketed site. And so I had a sale. They had a sale, so I was like, boom, I want to find this stuff out. And so what I was going to do is I was going to secretly plot to take my dad's DNA, like I was going to get his hair or something of that nature, or swab him when he's asleep or something. And I was going to test him to see if he's really my father. Because it's kind of an awkward conversation. Hey, I want to find out if you're really my dad. Funny thing about 23andMe, I heard a statistic. I don't know if this is true or not, but I believe it. 5% of the people that take the test find out that that wasn't their father. 5%. That's crazy. That's a pretty high number to me. What do y'all think? And MyHeritage is so these next two sites are pretty cool because you can upload your data, your DNA data. You can download it from 23andMe, and you can upload it to these other sites. This GEDmatch site is pretty dope because they have all kind of researchers and scientists actually putting in different algorithms and things like that, and you'll be able to find relatives. What's funny about this is I noticed that everybody that uploads their stuff to all these sites, all the people upload their stuff to all the sites. So I found relatives on 23andMe, I found them on Ancestry.com, I found them on GEDmatch, and I found them on MyHeritage. So what's interesting about this is since DNA, your sequence is data, you could actually do a mining effort to actually mine all these sites for all kind of crazy people DNA. And I'll show you that later. All right, so let's get into this. And I'm going to get into some controversial stuff, and I hope y'all play along with me because it's all love. So here's Kendrick Lamar. Let's talk about DNA, a little bit more about the DNA. This is the DNA video. That's K-Dot. So when I did 23andMe, here's my relative matches. I had 1,000 and something relatives on there. What's interesting about that is there's not a lot of black people on these sites. So almost all of those people, like thousands, probably 1,000 people, are Caucasian. And again, I don't know anybody white in my family until I did this DNA stuff. And I'm like, everybody's popping up. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Like I got all these, my wife's white, but nobody in my lineage that I never knew that was white. So it's kind of funny because me, since I'm a hacker, what I did is I actually looked up everybody, and I'll tell you about that. I actually started friending people, telling them I was their cousin, and they're probably like, man, this guy's crazy. So this blew my mind right here. So I didn't know any, like I said, I didn't know any European forefathers in my family. Everybody I know is black. Funny enough, that I remember growing up, people told me that I was part Mexican, and since I'm from Texas, I believed it. I was like, yeah, I believe that. I was part white. I had no clue. we were part Indian or whatever. I think everybody thinks they're part Indian in America. And I mean, Native American, right? So I didn't know what the heck I was. But the DNA test says I was 76.5 African, and the mostly Nigerian and Sierra Leone, really. So that was kind of interesting, and I was like, cool. All right, so I can kind of like know where geography, from a geography perspective, I can have some place past, the cotton picking fields. Funny enough, my grandmother picked cotton, and all my uncles picked cotton. So cotton picking is not something that just went away, by the way. It's that blows my mind that my mom didn't pick cotton because she was the baby girl. But if she was a boy, she would have picked cotton growing up. And this is my mother. She's born in the 50s, and they were still picking cotton in Texas. So, European descent. I'm 22.5% European. That blew my mind, right? And so what I told my kids, because my kids all were talking about they were biracial, they were half black, I said, no, your blackness has been downgraded by at least 15%. So they didn't take that too nicely. So it was pretty interesting. But what's dope about that, if you see the British and Irish descent, funny enough, how the universe or God or whatever y'all believe in works is because the first duty station I went to was Scotland. That blew my mind, and I married a British wife. So I'm like, wow, that's crazy how all that stuff works out. And so being in Scotland, it was dope because I lived in Scotland, and actually I was having a conversation with somebody that lived in Scotland as well. And I know Scotland up and down. I might, just like, a forefather or something would do it. I've been all over Scotland, been to all the castles, drunk all the whiskey, the whole nine. So getting the GEDmatch. So you get your DNA, you can download your DNA, and you can upload it to these sites. This is what blew my mind and was what I said, this is a privacy nightmare. And what I did on here, you see those kit numbers on the side? You can actually enumerate these kit numbers on this website. This is GEDmatch. I haven't done this because I'm ethical, and you should get permission before you did anything too crazy. What I'm showing you here is a screenshot of my results. On the left is a kit, and that kit number is related to somebody's submission that they submitted themselves. You can actually look at the kit, by the way. You can look at all these people's DNA. Is that pretty cool? Is that cray-cray or what? On the right, on this next column is their full names. You see me, I'm MJC. I'm doing legit research too. I'm not pretending I'm somebody else. I'm saying Marcus@threatcare.com. I'm like being real loud and proud of who I am. All these people right here, they have their real names. And so what I do, the hacker that I am, I'm like looking up everybody I can on social media. And many of those people, like I said, hey, I'm your cousin. How you doing? Have you heard of this family name? Because I'm trying to really search, and I'm doing legit research, and at the same, I'm doing legit research on my family at the same time, since I found all this stuff is just hanging out there online, and all their email addresses. So, since you download your DNA as a stack of data, you can go in and manipulate that DNA to match anybody on this list. So it's 100% possible to go through here and mine this whole website if you wanted to do something crazy like that. And here, like I'm saying, those are thousands of overlaps. So you see that red piece right there? That's my DNA overlaps with other people. So I think it's like really, really crazy that the DNA is out here, because what I believe DNA is going to be what determines somebody's value in the future. I believe that everybody in here, if you look at like China is kind of like showing you a blueprint of what's going to be happening next. And I'm going to give you a couple examples of what we currently do and what I believe DNA is probably going to be used for later. And in the end, the whole point of this is like talking about the privacy and how you can easily harvest thousands of people's DNA right now if you just wrote a simple script. So, of course, like I said, I'm hitting up people. A couple of people replies. So I'm actually friends with some of the people that I found on there. Some people are doing crazy stuff, like somebody's a professor in Scotland and all kind of crazy stuff. And I'm like really digging this. So I got all this new family all over the place. And it's funny because if I was a bad actor, people trust you because you share DNA with them. It's the ultimate little card. Like, we're cousins, man. I wouldn't do anything to you, right? We all know family is the worst, to do you over the worst, right? So it brings me back to Vegas. How many of y'all go to the Vegas conferences? So when y'all see your brother out in Vegas, say hi, because I'm always there. So say hi to me. Say hi when I'm around about here. I love meeting people. I love seeing if there's an opportunity for me to help out if I can. So what's funny about Vegas, every year when I went to Vegas, I would go and visit my dad's aunt, which was kind of interesting. So he was definitely, my dad looks like my aunt. So it's the craziest thing. So it's like, so they have so strong genetics that they all look alike. But I don't look like them. I look like my mom's side. So I still was unconvinced. And so when I did my DNA test, I was telling my wife, man, it is going to be so awkward if these people aren't related to me. Can you imagine that? So when I got my DNA relatives, this is on 23andMe. So the top one is, because this is my aunt, her name is Irma Johnson. That's my dad's, the guy that I thought was my dad, that's his aunt. So that right there was like, oh, snap, he is my dad. And it sucks that I had to find out this way, because I was thinking of all these plots so I can get his DNA. If I could get my sister tested, like all kind of different. I had all these plots on how I was going to solve this problem, but the problem solved itself for me. And what I noticed with that is, like, you hear sometimes of things like this, the crime scene piece, right? So on the crime scene, you've heard about now people they're finding murderers and serial killers through DNA, right? So sometimes I have these thoughts in my head. If I was a cop, how would I catch people? I think about, if I was still at the agency, how would I be catching some of these people too? So I kind of think of this. And so I just showed you real quick that a lot of these DNA testing sites are under like hot water, because what they're doing is they're agreeing to cooperate with crimes. But I just showed you that people are just uploading their DNA to any website. So if I was a cop, or if I was the FBI or the CIA or NSA, I would create a fake DNA analysis site. And let everybody upload their DNA straight to me. And what's funny about this is because the same technique has been used on like paste bin sites. So, the government makes all kind of crazy sites for people to upload. So I wouldn't be surprised in the future that the government is going to be maintaining this stuff either surreptitiously. I'm from Texas, so forgive my, you're not going to know it. So what's happening here is that this will definitely continue to work. I know in China, they're actually doing all kind of crazy facial recognition for everybody. I wouldn't be surprised if China actually already hacked all these websites that I'm talking about and got all the people that gave their DNA anyway. I would not be surprised. And then I'm going to talk about a little bit more technology. And what I'm going to talk about here is what we find value. What do we see value in? So the reason why I'm bringing this book up is this book actually taught me a lot of stuff about empathy and how people have been different. So right now, I think a lot of stuff in America, definitely in a lot, even like in Asia, one of my employees is Asian, and she told me that it's funny because she's not dark-skinned Asian to me, but to her, she was dark-skinned Asian, and to every other Asian, she was dark-skinned. I was like, you look real light-skinned. She's like, no, I'm actually quite dark. And she told me in China, the lighter you are, the better. I'm like, what? That blew my mind. She told me that if you were light, that meant you were royalty and then you have to work in the fields. the people who had darker pigmentation in China, she said that they were viewed as lower caste or lower class even. Has anybody heard that? That blew my mind. I did not know that. That blew my mind. And I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Like all these people from different places, and there's always something, and I'll talk about this another book in a second, where there's always something in society that makes you treat people better or worse, right? And I believe, again, DNA is the future of this. And that's why I think we have to start taking it more serious. So what I start doing to myself, that book that I just mentioned, it talks about checking your privilege. One of the things it talks about. So my privilege is funny because I never always thought, I'm black and I've been, the story of the slave trade and all that stuff. I'm going to touch on that in a little bit. But the truth is, if I look at myself, what's cool about my privilege is I was born in America. That's a leg up on most people in the world. When I was 18, I took an ASVAB test, more on that later. And that ASVAB test, I got the highest clearance in the land at 18. I worked at NSA as a blue badger for 8 years. When I was 18 years old, this was when the internet was just coming up. I had access to tons and tons of computers. The military and NSA spent $200,000 on training me. So I'm like a nerd version of Jason Bourne in the Bourne Identity. So that is crazy privilege. I got my bachelor's degree for free. I got my master's degree for free. If you just took Marcus being black out the equation, I got a whole lot of privilege. And so that's man, we all have some kind of privilege. And this is where it's going to get funny because the people with the privilege to do crazy stuff like CRISPR technology and stuff like that, where they're going in and they're modifying DNA, they're going to be those people that have money and that privilege to spend that money on their kids and stuff before they're even born. That's the future. We're living in it right now. Also, this book, Sapiens, have anybody seen this book before? Read it? A couple people. Everybody should read this book. This book blew my mind. What this book talks about, it talks about the history of sapiens. Like us, we're sapiens, right? But also the Neanderthal and other different sapiens that existed all at the same time. A lot of people don't know this, but even some people, some people in here in this room probably have a little bit of Neanderthal DNA. So we were all here at the same time, but Homo sapiens killed everybody else. Homo sapiens also killed all the animals everywhere they lived too. And it makes all these ridiculous ties on how people are bad, and it's usually and it's a follow-up book to this, it's usually based on scarcity. We always think there's scarcity, but there's actually abundance. We have more food than ever. We have more anything than ever, but some people are scared that we don't have enough of something. We have more money, food, whatever, lights, electricity, whatever you talk about, we have more of it right now. Anybody heard this guy? Can somebody tell me who this is? I'm going to give y'all a present if you can. Who is this? Lupe Fiasco. This guy, Lupe Fiasco, is what they call a conscious rapper. So I guess Kendrick Lamar, the other guy, he's a conscious rapper. But sometimes these rappers spit so much knowledge, it's ridiculous. This is the cover of his album, his last album. Anybody know what that is? Just blew my mind. It took me forever to figure out what this was, so I found it in a forum somewhere, and that is that. So what this is called, this is called a manila. This was used to trade slaves. So this thing right here was worth one slave. It's a tiny piece of copper or bronze, tiny, like this big. But that was used to trade one human body. That's crazy to me, God dang. But it was valuable. So what happened is the Europeans would make these in factories in Europe. They would come down and buy slaves for this, and then in trade for this, the Africans could buy guns. So Africans sold each other into slavery too, right? So the Africans used to trade one of these for a gun so they could actually go conquer more land, grab more slaves, get more Manila, get more guns, and they would ship the slaves to South America mostly. I think 85% of the slave trade went to South America, and a tiny fraction that went to North America. Why this is important is because what we view as value, it blows my mind, because now we have stuff like Bitcoin. And people place value on that stuff now. Bitcoin, to me, it's a made-up thing. Matter of fact, all our money right now, it's not backed by anything. It's all fiat currency, even the American dollar. But it's crazy how we associate value with all these things. The talk of this is I got royalty. I got royalty and loyalty. I think humans by nature is loyal until money comes in the picture. I just heard today another Bitcoin, some kind of Bitcoin company just got, messed over out of like $13 million or something. And so I think that humans are good as long as money not involved. I think that about anything you could talk about. You talk about the intelligence community, same thing. Here's how that slave trade worked. And what's interesting about this is during that time, the people that had money and power, sometimes it was the royalty, sometimes it was the people that had the money that were in control, but they controlled the slave trade. And a couple other things did y'all know that the slave trading boats were on stock markets globally? So you could buy stock in the slave trade and the slave companies. And this is what I'm saying. Humans mess everything up. We're terrible. So we built this amazing country. I'm proud to be an American. Definitely proud to be a Texan. It's a whole nother country. But what's crazy, though, trafficking is still going on a global scale. And there's tons and tons, billions of dollars being made on still exploiting people. It blows my mind. It's still happening. And if you can do anything to help, stop that. There's plenty of organizations out there trying to help us do this. So this is still happening today. Sometimes we talk about slavery and all that stuff. We talk about, oh, yeah, that must have sucked. Like it's way back in the day. It's still happening now. Also, talking about measuring, let me go through this. So the ASVAB test, what it did for the military is it said that it identified Marcus Carey, that's me. I was going to be good at cryptography and stuff like that. So they put me in that position to do cryptography, and that was my privilege. My privileges was I could take tests real good. I'm a great test taker, right? And so anybody heard of CLEP test or whatever? Yeah, so CLEP test is a test that you can take for college credit. I did 115 credits, like college credits on CLEP tests. I can take tests better than anybody in the world. So if there's a DNA segment that says, this guy's good at taking tests, that's me. They need to clone that little segment. But what I'm saying is that was, like I said, that was one of the privileges that I had. And that's a DNA thing. That's in my DNA. That's in everybody's DNA that's posted it online. SAT test. Sometimes the SAT test to me is more of a privilege thing because you can do these preparatory classes and all that stuff. But it could be you're just a good test taker. Stuff like the ACT, same thing, right? But what these tests all have in common is all these tests are to measure your ability to do something. And so globally, what we've done is globally, the people that are the most successful, we've been bringing them to the States. Even the H-1B visa is bringing just the best people from all around the world. I mean, well, I guess what I would say the smartest according to some kind of need or whatever. So now it's a global game, and we're not taking on slaves anymore, but we're taking on people. And to be honest with you, a lot of these people on these visas are treated really bad too. They're underpaid and all that stuff too, until they can get their citizenship. And nowadays, with the immigration piece, that's all a mess too now. So people wait for their citizenship forever. So this is another selection criteria that we use to select people. The big thing that I'm saying now is that y'all know who this guy is? This is the CRISPR doctor. This is the one who supposedly genetically modified twins. And the story kind of gets all kind of interpreted, but the story is he made one of his daughters, it was two twin girls. One of them was genetically modified to be resistant to HIV. So his daughter can't catch HIV. The same gene that they flipped or whatever, that they changed, that also makes them smarter, the twins. So this person is going to be more likely to pick up stuff, and they're going to be resistant to HIV. Like, there's a lot of people with a lot of money that would pay for that, right? Y'all believe that? I kind of compare it to this. Where, as far as DNA goes, there's an opportunity for somebody to make, manufacture some kind of, could be, some people say HIV was manufactured. That could be a conspiracy theory or not. But we definitely know biological warfare is a real deal, right? So you could certainly go in and you could see who would be resistant to certain things. Y'all believe that? That's happening all the time. That happens like with companies like this. They're doing this in the agriculture field and seeds, and they're suing people and all this stuff. So what's going to be crazy if you can start modifying DNA with this CRISPR technology, and you can immune certain people to certain things, and then you can end up making a lot of money off selling that cure as well. Now, there's a lot of conspiracy people out there. I'm not really a conspiracy theory person, but it's kind of hard to ignore what's kind of right in front of your face. Also, like I said, the CRISPR doctor made his kid more resistant to certain things. There's already what they call AI or machine learning that's actually boxing out a lot of people. For instance, if you have a certain criteria, this is funny as all outdoors to me. So I'm a hacker, right? So what I do is everybody has a sock puppet account. So I have some Latino accounts, like Marcos Caruso or something. Like but they're Hispanic names. So what's funny is when I'm myself Marcus, all my ads that I see online are black ads. It's a black Marine. There ain't no black Marines. I'm just playing, there are black Marines. They're the few, the proud, though. But I get black ads. Every ad I see on the internet is black because somebody knows I'm black. For real. Do y'all see the same thing? Like, y'all don't notice that? You don't notice it? Yeah. So when I switch, because they're just like you. So, also, we know that banks and people banks and all that stuff are actually doing different credit for zip code that you live in and all kind of stuff like that. Insurance rates are different. All these things are different. So I believe that all your tendencies are in your DNA. Every tendency that you have, whether you procrastinate, whether you don't, because I have 4 different kids, and all of them are different. 4 different kids? That sounded weird. They're all different. They're different. Like, all of them are different. So, but I believe that that in the future, and in China already, what they're doing is you can't leave the country if you have bad credit. That's crazy. What if they said, okay, we know your DNA, you have a tendency, like all these people have left the country and didn't go back. You have a tendency to do that. Or you have a tendency not to pay your bills based on your DNA. That stuff could happen in the future. Does that sound crazy? So you ever heard of the golden rule? Y'all know what the golden rule is? Oh, that's the rule. So there's 2 golden rules. This guy's on it. You know the golden rule. Don't trust this guy right here. Treat others the way you want to be treated is the one that most people, that's the happy one. But the real golden rule is the one with the gold makes the rules. And I 100% believe that. Because ultimately, but what we have to do, I think the good people, I think I'm a good person. If the good people can make the money and control the goal, then we could actually kind of rewrite the rules. Now, what's going on now? Like, I'm a crazy person. I'm posting my DNA all over the place and all that stuff. You might want to tell people not to if they believe in privacy. Because what I just showed you is that you have other people posting other people's DNA online. Sometimes it's legit, because sometimes I'm actually in these forums, like in Ancestry, and I have people posting stuff on my family. And so I had two different people. One of them was working with my uncle to get his DNA, get his Ancestry done, but a lot of the stuff was wrong. So this guy that was doing my family tree, he thought my aunt through a marriage was my mom. I'm like, no, that's not right. But there's people out there fiddling around with your family, your DNA, and all that stuff, and you don't even know them. I also bumped into another guy that uploaded DNA of a deceased person, and they were managing the account for that family as well, right? I seen people upload their DNA twice because they forgot they forgot their password to their 23andMe account, and what they did is they went and go and bought another. They went and go bought another swab. Another spit thing, and they paid for another account like that. And I'm like, golly, Lord help us, humanity. That's a dang password reset from hell. You got to submit your DNA to get past that. But yeah, so big picture is like know the concerns. I wanted this to be more of a high-level talk, but the facts are, you saw easily all those numbers. Those numbers are you can easily iterate those numbers, and you can grab all the DNA kits off these sites. And that blew my mind. But I'm crazy because I don't care. So hopefully if I do have some good DNA, somebody will put that in a CRISPR and pass it along to civilization. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for listening. Are there any questions? That means I did an amazing job. So one more thing. I didn't plug the book, but thanks a lot for everybody that bought the Tribal Hackers book. And thanks for everybody that got it signed. I really appreciate y'all. That's amazing that y'all show love like that. And that's the end of my, we got a question right here. Yeah, so my dad is actually the guy I thought was my dad. So his name is Joseph Bradford, and I can't believe that he's really my dad. What's crazy about it, my dad doesn't have a relationship with none of his kids. And so that's luckily, that's something personally, and that's why I say, the whole nurture and nature stuff, I had such a crappy childhood growing up that it made me want to be a good father. And so luckily, I don't believe being a terrible father is in the DNA. But maybe we have other things that we pick up from our family, but thank goodness. But yeah, my father, nobody likes him in my family. My sister that I'm gonna have dinner with tonight hates his guts. So it's actually kind of sad. But he is really my biological father, and she's my sister.
Is there more of a security threat by posting your DNA on commercial sites like 23andMe versus smaller sites like
Yeah, so the question he has is there a greater risk by posting it on the commercial site versus the smaller sites? And so I believe that just because you're a big brand and big company and have a lot of money, that doesn't make you more secure. On the front end, though, I think that they have better controls on the front end, but like that whole JED match thing, where it's showing me thousands and thousands of people matching all kind of crazy sequences, that's a problem waiting to happen. So so I don't equate how big a company is to how secure it is. But me, I don't believe in privacy. I'm a weirdo. So I don't care. So, did I report the problem to JedMatch? Is the question? No, I didn't. No, I think it's working like it's designed. I don't think it's a security flaw. So I think that's just the way they meant it to be. So I didn't report it. And also, reporting stuff is kind of a pain in the butt. Like, even if somebody is doing something blatantly wrong, I've seen people in this room here that have reported stuff to blockchain people, and the blockchain people don't fix it. Or in the Bitcoin, all the cryptocurrencies, I've seen people, and I've seen the Bitcoin people try to sue people and all that stuff. So I just assume they know what they're doing. So there's an old school thing. I think it comes from Oakland. The game is to be sold, not told. I don't really believe that, but anybody? Oh, one more question over here. So they caught a serial killer based on, she's saying that they caught a serial killer based on DNA, where they catch other people, other criminals. I believe they will catch them, and if I'm related to them, I think they should do the crime. They should do whatever time they have. I don't really, it's definitely if I have somebody that's done something crazy, heinous like that. But I wonder if that's going to change the statute of limitations. I don't know. I think there's definitely going to be a big legal situation. I've also thought about some experimentation on capturing people's DNA without them knowing it. Like if somebody drinks something, like try to swab it and throw it into a container and send it off real quick, that'd be dope. Yep. Yeah, so basically, some of us are genetic mutants, and sometimes, yeah. When does we keep our stuff safe from people that want to be nefarious with their... Yeah, how do you keep your stuff from people that are going to be nefarious? So the first part of it was 23andMe recently said they're working with medical companies, or releasing data to medical companies, and they're doing medical research based on it. I think that's definitely... I think most things that we talk about in security aren't technical things. I think that's something we should talk to your congressperson about. Those are political things. And try to get in contact with people that are in politics, that regulate the healthcare stuff, starting with probably the state level, maybe your local congressperson at a state level, and a congressperson from a state level. And the people that are on those medical and FDA approval panels and all that stuff. But I think the genie may be out of the bottle for anybody that already uploaded their DNA, though. Because if I'm, who reads any kind of, EULAs or anything like that, you know what I'm saying? JedMatch could have just shipped my stuff straight to CIA or something. And the CIA hates ex-NSA people, so I don't trust them. If any CIA in here, I don't trust you. All right, I'm done. I appreciate y'all for listening. Thank you very much.